Hey, what's going on, everybody? Martavius here,
Jeremy.
and welcome to another jam session with Jeremy and I. If this is your first time joining us in these jam sessions, then welcome. If this is not your first time, welcome back to a jam session where we just talk about life. We talk about growth. We talk about just the things that make us better as men, as people, as brothers, as neighbors, as friends, as sons, as all the titles, that we have in this life. Just how can we continue to elevate our own life experience? And in doing so, how can you watching this, the person you share this video with, how can they, get some insight from what we're talking about, this wisdom that we have, this practical knowledge that we actually have, and we practice still to this day, even though we learned some of these concepts over a decade ago. We've just continued to grow and learn and connect these dots. And our hope for you is that you connect the dots for your own life and that you grow your own life experience just by hearing a little something different or seeing a little something different or just experiencing something different for yourself. So, welcome to a jam session. Gonna get rocking and rolling. In today's session, we're gonna be talking about just creative inspiration and like where do we find our creative inspiration from? What really sparks us? Because Jeremy and I, if y'all been following us, we met in college, just being college roommates, one, but also just we connected through music. So Jeremy with the bass guitar, and then me with like the acoustic guitar or violin or whatever else, we can come up together with. And we just found that, hey, when we get together and we just like start to play stuff and you start to play something that matches with this thing I'm playing, we just make some music together and thus a jam session was born, right? So we're going to do the same thing here, but just again, share more of those life insights with you all so you can, again, grow in your own life experience. All right, so I'm going to get started off with just creative inspiration. So, Jeremy, for you, where do you find your creativity? Like ideas just come to you, nothing can stop you in that moment.
Oh man, I think that's it's a loaded question. I think there's a particular zone I have to be in order to get there. And I think that it just kind of comes to you a bit. I guess I'll kind of backtrack a little bit. The kind of the first time I felt like I was creative, I had a little bit of creativity. I think I was in first grade and we had like a little art project. And most people were just kind of drawing figures, the rectangle with the circles at the bottom and say it's a car, or the square with the triangle on top and the rectangle for a house and the door and the square windows is very simple. But I think I pushed it to the edge a little bit and I think I drew like a T-Rex with like a boulder in his mouth or something like that. It was very random. I don't even know where I got
You said with a boulder in his mouth?
boulder. Yeah, like a
Wow.
big rock boulder in his mouth. And I guess I looked at maybe like a book, AR book from back then or something, and like just kind of looked at it and drew it. But then when we were kind of presenting it in class, I can remember saying, "What? You traced that? How did you draw that?" Like, no, I didn't trace any of that. I just looked at it and followed the lines from it,
Hmm.
etc. So I think that was like the first time I had a sense of creativity, and kind of the expansion of my imagination a little bit, like putting my trying to bring what was in my head into this side of reality. I feel like that's kind of what creativity is the things that you see inside your head, inside your mind, inside your own domain, and try to bring them into this reality that you live in. And that can be very difficult to do. And that's why there's very different mediums that we can express that creativity, because it's not one that's right, one that's wrong. It's a very varying language, but at the same time, it kind of all says similar things. Like you can look at a piece of art and say, "Man, this piece of art reminds me of this particular type of music or this particular song." Like it all is related to each other in some strange way. I
Hmm.
think it's just a different language type. It's almost like learning a different language. And when you can master both, it's gives you the same type of superpowers as if you were bilingual, and being able to travel various countries like that can very much set you apart in a lot of different ways. So That's kind of where creativity first came back from me. And before I answer the next part, I would push it back to you and say, where do you remember the first time you like kind of were in this creative type of realm or like kind of understood, oh, this I'm maybe a little creative. Like, what is this thing here?
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's similar to yours. It goes back to childhood, and I feel like that's where we're the most creative
Yeah.
because we don't have any parameters around anything. It's just
Right.
like we can do anything, at that point. And it's like once you learn an adult, it's just like, I need this to do that, and this is how this actually works. But I would say as a kid, it's like I grew up in a household where my parents argued pretty often, and it's just like one of the things that I would do to just kind of quell my own thoughts or just like make the room a little bit quieter and a little bit more peaceful is I would just like find my brother had like this keyboard because he was like taking actual like piano lessons and stuff like that. So he would have his little keyboard and I think my mom was learning too. So I would see them doing stuff and I would like, just tap on the keys every once in a while. And then my brother, he also had a guitar, like a different brother. He had a guitar, and I would just like pluck a string, and I used to play the guitar like with my thumb. So I used to just like boom, 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 just like my thumb was like that. That's all I knew how to do. So it's like I feel like a combination between those two, and then my family was like pretty musical too. Like people play instruments. My mom sung. It's like I was around music a lot, just because of how my family was, especially the singing part of things. Like they just sung a lot,
Mhm.
either in the church or just like elsewhere, like at home. But it's like just in that environment. So I remember just one day getting to the keyboard and it was like this book, and I would just like look at the book and just like try to press what the book was saying try to get and again the keyboard wasn't plugged in at this moment so I'm just like going with it and I was just so zoned in. It's
Yeah.
like I lost track of time and I feel like that's where that creativity that imagination is just like in this timeless zone and some call it like a flow state or like deep work. He talks about that in that book Cal Newport I think is his name, but and this book, Deep Work, talks about that a lot, just getting into this flow state and get into this, it's like time doesn't exist anymore. And I felt like I was in it in that realm. And again, I was probably 7, 8, I don't know, it was just like sub 10 years old,
Yeah. Same. Same.
yeah, and just like really getting into it without again the keyboard was not on is the thing. It's like it was not on. And when it
I didn't
actually
realize
got on
that.
and I heard the sounds, I was like, oh, this is what this feels like. And then I started to get into like this is how music feels and just started to make up my own stuff. If it's like a chopsticks type of thing, or it's just like just like let me just play this one thing up here. Let me see how this sounds down here. Let me try to put these two things together. But I feel like when I started learning how to play the piano, and it was like self-taught. Like I didn't have an instructor. I had the books that I had access to, so I was instructed, but I didn't have a person saying like, okay, play this note. This is a G. This is a C. Like put your fingers like this. I didn't have like a coach in that sense. I
Yeah.
just like did it. And I feel like that was a moment where I realized that, hey, there's something here, especially the timelessness piece of it. That's just like talking about it now. Again, I haven't really revisited that memory since until now, but looking back at it, I was like, wow, I legit like played the keyboard without sound, for the
Mm,
longest time, just to get a feel for the
yeah.
the instrument itself. So yeah, I would say that was like one of those first sparks for me.
Yeah, and we talk about feel a little bit. I think as you was talking, I was thinking about and trying to like correlate the Arctic side to like the
Mhm.
work and development and progression and all that stuff. And I feel like that was really my first. The creative side was kind of my first way of like doing drills or training or practice, like very in-depth practice. I didn't see it as practice then, but I saw it as just like a hobby. Like drawing was a hobby for me. So I drew every day. My mom would go, we would go to Walmart, my mom would buy the Dragon Ball Z VHS tapes. And it was like 9.99 in the section at Walmart. I remember buying them every time. They had about 3 or 4 episodes on them. And I just watch it in my VCR. Super throwback, super dated myself on that. But I'll watch it on the VCR and I'll pause it. I
Hmm.
only had like maybe it'll only stay paused for like 10 minutes before it start playing again on its own. So I
Hmm.
have to try to like draw like the full scene quick before
Yeah.
it start back. Because if it starts back, then I won't get the exact moment that I paused it.
Yeah.
Like it'll be off a little bit. But yeah, I just can remember doing it like every day for
Mm.
years, man, and just I could progressively see myself get better at it. Like I could remember like years later when I would draw something again, my dad would be like, "Oh, boy, you done got good at drawing them little men, ain't you?"
Yeah.
Something like that. Like I didn't see the progression necessarily,
Yeah.
but other people could see how how detailed they got versus how it was when I started. And I think that just kind of set the groundwork a bit for my work ethic because I had to, start doing those reps to something with something that I love to do first before I could get the concept of doing something all the time because I know it's gonna make me better and I may love it one day and hate it the next day. Like I
Hmm.
had to do that hobby thing first in order to get those reps in
Hmm.
the the end product for me to really be able to invest in other areas, other aspects that may not have been so glorious every time I tried to do it. So I think that thinking back, the creativity side really, gave way to who I was from a work standpoint because it just gave me those first sense of practice. Practice makes perfect. Practice makes permanent. Practice, 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 practice.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Just the tie between creativity and tapping into that and like your work ethic and that style. Because it's like you can just be into something way longer than somebody else. Like you just outlast other people, who don't have that. And they would always talk about the advantage that we would have. Like I remember like fast forward, it's like, well, a little aside, talking about creativity, I remember when I wanted to get my violin, like I just got so like enthralled with the violin because I just heard it, I saw it, I was like, this looks so great, it looks so expressive. You have to like, it's like you're out in the open, it's just like here and
Yeah,
here, like you can't hide, people see your fingers, and it's like the precision. And I was so like excited and interested in the precision of the violin. It's like you can do so many things with it, but you have to be precise. Like if
yeah,
nothing else, you can be loud, you can be soft, you can be, little tremolo things, or you can, sound like a screeching sound, like like a horror
hmm,
movie things. You can do all these effects with it, but whatever you're doing, you have to be precise. So it's like I was really interested in like that precision and that accuracy, and like there's this marker that I want to hit. How can I hit it like dead on? And it's like your fingers, it has to hit the string in a very specific position, for it to make the sound that it needs to make. Same with like the bass and the guitar and things, but they have those frets. So you have a guide of some sort, but with like the violin or like other string instruments is like you have to know exactly
yeah,
where,
yeah.
and that just impressed me. I don't know what it was about it, but it just really impressed me. And I remember like having like a magazine, and it was like my mom, she was like, oh, what do y'all want for like Christmas and stuff like that. So we would give her a list, or we would circle some items that we would see like in a Toys R Us magazine or something like that. And I remember seeing some violins, and I like circled it, put it on her bed, and just like put some other stuff on to like this right here. So that was like, I guess, a little side of like me trying to be super creative,
Yeah.
saying like, I want this violin. But anyway, like fast forward to the work ethic piece, it's like I could see that when I did started playing in like middle school, high school, elementary school really is like when I started, because I think fifth grade is when they introduce you to like instruments. And but it's just like when I started playing middle school, high school, and like middle school is when I actually had like a coach. It's like he's Dr. Morrison now, but shout out to Matthew Morrison. He had private sessions with me because like he saw that I was wanting to learn more and I wanted to try new stuff. And that's where it's like the confidence kind of came from too. It's just, hey, there's this piece of music that I've never seen before, but I'm gonna just try to play it like I've been playing it my whole life,
Mhm.
and just go at it and suck at it, and be okay. Like I'm gonna get better. I just have to look at it again and do it again and again. And it's like that repetition. I remember one of my teachers asked me and said, "How long you been practicing for?" And I was like, "About like an hour or so each night." And she was like, "You see that, class? That's dedication." I was like, "Oh, please, no, they hate me so much right now." And it's like one person did tell me, she was like, "I did not like you when you first."
Oh,
And I was like,
oh
"Thanks."
man.
But it's
Yeah.
just like the
The world's
dedication,
smallest violin.
right? But yeah, it's just like the dedication to get better at something. I feel
Yeah.
like in the music realm, in the arts, even just like the visual arts, like because it takes so much time to sit there and like draw things out. And if you're dedicating time to like, I'm gonna pause this thing and like do my best to like do this thing like as accurately as I can. It's again, it's that precision for me. But yeah, I feel like I just saw things differently too. Just again, math. I feel like my math skills got better. Just like language, because like you have different terminology in music that you is like other people just don't know, like what piano means. Like, oh, the big instrument is like, no, that's like a volume. Or all the other things. And how to play, and it's just like you have to really feel, and that's something that I just know I needed to really tap into, which is like, how do I express emotion through
Mhm.
some channel, because as a guy, they're just like, don't cry, boys don't cry, wipe them tears or whatever. It's just like man up and all these things. And it's just like, how do I express like my anger or my frustration or my happiness or my joy or whatever in this creative type of way? I just need some channel. I just don't want to fight people, or I don't want to, cuss people out,
Right, right.
to have a more like productive way to do that, and express that and understand that for myself. And I feel like music for me helped me to like bridge that gap. And just to your point, just kind of go that extra mile if I needed to. It's like, okay, if I get promoted to a chair, chairmaster or whatever, that's cool. But it's just like, how can I go beyond that and just have this integrity with myself? Like, I'm going to learn this piece no matter how many hours I have to spend doing XYZ thing.
Right. Yeah, and I think like, the creative side, whether that's music, arts, drawing, whatever, sculpting, dance, I think that really pushes the other elements of intellect. Um,
Mhm.
I feel like that correlates with, whether you're strong in math, strong in reading, strong in comprehension, all those things. Like the creative side can only push it better because, like you said, it's like it's a forced expression of emotion. All forms of the creative is just a forced expression of emotion.
Mhm.
And what emotion does is just magnifies the particular, intellect in a certain area. Like it just kind of shows your masterfulness of that. Like some of the greatest creatives or greatest artists, we see them along the same lines as a knowledgeable genius, a Albert Einstein type of thing, like a Michael Jackson or Prince, like art, music, genius. They on the same realm or wavelength as a an intellect
Mhm.
from that sense. And I like to take it to another step because I know a lot of the examples we've shared so far have been more so like things that we started in our youth,
Mhm.
but we can, push the envelope a bit. We don't have to necessarily have always started it back then. Like
Yeah.
for me, I'm known for playing the bass from people that know me in college or even, electric guitar here and there, but I never played before I got to college. I didn't buy a bass until my freshman year of college. Like I
Yeah.
never touched it. Nobody in my immediate family was musical enhanced. I had an uncle who was musically advanced, but I only heard stories about him doing those things and didn't see it until after I got to college. So, I just kind of pushed my limits, very heavily influenced by one of my best friends, um, to just try it out. And I think Christmas I had some extra money. They had like a little guitar magazine. I just ordered it. I think I had ordered through the phone or something.
Mhm.
Came in and I got it. I had no idea what to do with it.
Yeah.
All my family calling me a straight fool for getting it because I didn't know what to do. What like I didn't know what was the letters, notes. What is that?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. So
Yeah.
I had to kind of pretty much teach myself how
Mhm.
to do it. I don't even think YouTube had really took off like that then.
Mhm.
Honestly, like I think I had to go to like a music store and buy a book, like with just tabs and stuff, and just practice for hours, like making bad notes. I know my first year roommates hated me because I just had it boom, boom, yeah, like just start. Like, what is this? But then that's that repetition came into play. And I think that just kind of pushed me pushed me beyond my limits because I was just dedicated to it. Then I also had to get out of my comfort zone because I had to listen to a different type of music to learn how to play. I know in college, you probably thought my favorite genre was probably like rock music or something.
Yeah, you was listening to all this stuff.
I listened to then. I've never listened to it prior to that because only reason I listened to it because it was the bass lines were simple, like 3, 4 note lines.
Mhm.
Unlike R&B or gospel, is very complicated, very complex scaling system. Nobody really wants to teach you how to do it. They just expect you to understand it already and follow it. Versus rock music is just, yeah, dude, just hit A, B, B, C, C, and that's it. So I
Yeah.
just follow that. I could follow it better. It was easier for me. So I had to just kind of spread my wings and try something new, and did it so much that it just became a part of me. Honestly, like I said, everybody in college thought I just always did it, always listened to this. I promise you, I never listened to it a day in my life before.
Got that
Promise.
Nirvana playing in the background.
Never. I didn't know who Nirvana was until
It's
promise.
like you introduced me.
I had no idea who they were. Never listened to it. Never
Wow.
held the CD from them. Nothing. Nobody.
How you spell that? Yeah, again, I would have known, because it's just something that you just did, especially at the time, that we intersected. It's just like, oh, this is just what he's into, It's just like, again, because I thought you were like, oh, he's like into hip hop and rap and stuff like that, which is like, yeah, you are, but at the same time, I was like, oh, he has this other side, that he's like into rock and alternative music and stuff like that. But it's like, I'm just trying to get the bass line. That's it.
That's it.
I was like, could have fooled me. You did fool me. I didn't know. But and that's just great, to your point of just like stretching that envelope and just going beyond, what you would normally do and how creativity just like pulls you into that. It's just like for you to create something and go beyond your limits, And Myron Golden talks about that, like where he talks about the 4 levels of value. He doesn't say creativity, but he says imagination is like the highest form of value that you can give to somebody. And, communicating that value is like the second highest, but just really imagining things and creating things. And I just think about the people who one created the instruments to begin with, to be able to like play, something like you put some wood and some string and stuff together and like, all right, boom, 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 boom. All right, this is it. This is the thing. It's like that's just wow. Anyway, but it's just like what you can create out of that, even it's just different types of genres, like you said, different types of beats and rhythms. And it's just like what that does for your mood, and it's just like you can look at like the neuroscience probably behind it. There's probably some studies out there. I know they did some studies with water, like Dr. Emoto, just with
Mhm.
his water studies, but how music affects water and how our bodies are like 70% water. So it's like music affects us, just by
Right.
that, by default, but it's just like, the effects that it has on our emotional state and our mental state, or just how even like we were talking earlier, just how took my son out for a run yesterday and I was playing my music, the whole time and he was fine. But it's like when we got done, he was just like over it. He's like, I'm ready to get out. I'm gonna go home. Screaming and crying and stuff. But it's like as soon as I played like his favorite music, like Gracie's Corner, he's just like, right. Like it's just like instantly he just
Yeah.
switches moods. And it's just like, and that's a small example, but just to the adult or the child in us, it has that same effect to where, we can just listen to something and it just takes us back in time. It could take us
Mhm.
forward in time. It's just like just what it does, and not just music, but any creative outlet like that we're talking about, just any creative outlet. It can just put you in any position. But I feel like the present moment is like the most powerful state that we can be in. It's just
Yeah.
in the now, like in the right now moment. because that's where we can draw a lot of inspiration from, and that's kind of hard to conceptualize at first, because again we can be all over the place and like thinking about, okay, what just happened and what's coming up next, but it's like if we can find this creative outlet that puts us in the present moment, I feel like that's where even more creative power can come from, and it just starts to self-generate, at that point, which is like
Right.
a wild concept, but it's yeah, I feel like it's pretty true. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. 100%. No question.
yeah. So like what's like closing remarks, like as far as like creativity, somebody's like, I don't know what my creative voice outlet is. How would you recommend that they find that?
I think you have to find it. You have to find it from somebody else first. You'll never be able to recognize it just within yourself, or you'll never perceive it in that sense. Like for me, it took somebody to saying, "Man, did you drew that? What was that?" Like, I just thought that was that was the normal. Or
Mhm.
playing instruments for me, it took a compliment from playing it and people not knowing that I was a novice to give me the strength or courage to be like, I'm gonna keep going with this. So you have to just networking, having connections with people, and then building that trust between that person to be able to let those walls down a little bit and do some things around another person, and they just so happen to see it. Because their perception of it is going to be like our perception of ourselves and the things that we do is so clouded, and
Yeah.
this either can be clouded negatively or positively, but it's never neutral. Never. Our perception of ourselves and the things that we do, things that we produce, are never from a neutral standpoint because we're always with us, and it's
Mhm.
always going to reflect with how we view ourselves. And so it can be
Right.
super negative or super positive. So you need a neutral party that can kind of give a pretty accurate opinion or viewpoint about something, then just listen to what they're saying. Um, Trust their words. That's why I said that trust is there.
Mhm.
That connection is already built so that you can have that trust in them. It's just kind of use what they say as the stepping stone to get moving towards that creativity. So I guess my number one advice is just share whatever you do, just
Mhm.
share it. What'll come out will come out from it. I mean,
Mhm.
you don't have to share it to the world. You don't have to start a YouTube channel necessarily. You don't have to write a book necessarily, but just let somebody read it. If you're writing, let your favorite teacher read it. You
Yeah.
trust their viewpoint, you trust their opinion. If you're drawing, let one of your friends that that kind of draws a little bit too, let them see it. Just kind of get their viewpoints from it and get that feedback, accept the feedback, and then use it to maneuver how you want to maneuver going forward. But you're gonna need some outside gratification in order to get that
Mhm.
creativity bubble going initially.
Yeah.
Initially,
Yeah. No, I wholeheartedly agree. It's just like getting connected with other people is like one of the best things, and the fastest way too, because
yeah,
like what you said, that feedback loop, and they could just tell you instantly in that moment, like, wow, you've improved here, or it's like that wasn't what you was playing last week, or even if it's like a drawing or something, it's just like, wow, that looks just like the real thing, or
yeah,
whatever
yeah.
it is, it's just like just those little just words, and just the power of words. And we probably need to do another episode about that, just the power of words,
Our
but
words,
yeah, just
right?
how powerful they can be. And then again, the words itself is that creative medium, because it's like you said, is taking this invisible and then channeling it through ourselves to be visible, and that's what a word is. It's like there's
Yeah,
this invisible thought that we have, and we use our vocal cords and our breath and all these things to just like produce this word, and these words can impact people and change people and change our perception of ourselves, again, if it is like cloudy or mucky or whatever.
right.
So yeah, that's the biggest thing. It's just getting around people, and then you start to internalize those things, and then you can get with yourself a little bit deeper as well. So um love that. We close off on that. That's a great point. Thank y'all so much again for joining us in this jam session. If you got a lot of value out of this, please share this with somebody. Like this video, subscribe to our channel to hear more conversations. And if you do want to hear a topic, of discussion like the power of words, or something else that we probably touched on here, and that's just like, that's a really good point, and that's a really good nugget. I'd like y'all to go deeper into that. Just put a comment, let us know, and we can make a video about that in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Like, share, spread the word, um, replay what you've heard. You listen to something more than once, you're gonna get more than one thing out of it. So definitely replay the past videos that we've had, replay this video that we have now, and replay all of the future videos that we will be posting in the near future. Again, like Martavius said, if you have any comments or any suggestions, drop them down below in the comments, and we'll be sure to try to integrate that into our next jam session.
All right, guys. Have a good night or day, whatever time it is for you.
Morning, whatever.
Cool.